Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show, definitely another exciting guest. And on the side of me is the one, the only. You recognize the smile, you recognize the face, all the way from Dallas, Texas, back to his roots, Indianapolis, Indiana, the one, the only Mr. Steve Scoop Jefferson. What's up, big dog?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
You're co-hosting with me today. We're going to talk about this book that me and you looked at called Joyful Resilience, a story of a young lady's journey with dealing with a brother, a family member that has autistic, right?
Yeah, autism. Living with autism.
Yeah, what that must be like and the impact of that with her own life. Let's welcome to the show, Miss. Is it
Agazit
Ocbazgi? How you doing, baby girl?
Hi. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, welcome.
Let's get right down to this beautiful book. Why was it written? The impact, and this is your journey. So, without further ado, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are first, because your name is very unique, and you told me and Steve where you was from, and we both looked like, where is that?
Yeah, so I'm Eritrean American. My parents came to the United States when I was a baby from Eritrea. And I have a brother who has autism. I grew up in Seattle, Washington. I'm currently stationed in DC because I'm active duty, though I'm not here representing the Department of Defense or the Navy. This is a personal pursuit, personal passion of mine to advocate for members of the autism community and family members who also have to navigate the same kinds of complexities that my family had to, especially being first generation immigrants and learning what it's like to have that layer of learning a new culture as well as having a family member who has their own unique needs.
You mentioned first generation, but tell me about where you're from, because even me and Steve were like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, we never heard of that.
Right. We having vacation there.
Yeah.
So Eritrea is it's north of Ethiopia. It borders the Red Sea, and it's a country that has during the time of my parents when they fled. It was during a civil war. At the time, it was still a part of Ethiopia, and Eritrea was fighting for its independence. And so during that time, anybody who was of Eritrean descent, it was not a very safe time to be there. So my parents fled during the war for a safe haven and safety, and that led them to Sudan and ultimately to the United States.
How was you exposed to the U.S. though?
Like since I was a child. So I was born in the book I mentioned, I was born in Sudan. And at the same time, my parents got their exit visa, or they got their papers to the United States. And that's where they named me Agazit, because Agazit means freedom. It means liberator. It means because of you, we are free. So because they had gotten their papers and their approval to come to the U.S., I was their freedom baby.
Now, let's go a little bit deeper. You and your brother, not that far apart.
Yeah.
He winds up being on the spectrum. As a child, what was that like, and when did you realize that he was a special child?
I don't think there was ever a moment where I thought, oh, my brother has autism or he's special. I thought it was normal, because ever since we were little, I had always seen some of his mannerisms and his behavior. So I just thought this is normal, that in my mind, it was more about adapting and being his big sister, kind of how do I help him navigate his world? I don't think I ever saw it as, oh, he's different, he's special. It wasn't until, because I grew up kind of sheltered, especially my parents being first generation, growing up in Chicago, learning a new language, getting adapted and acclimating. It wasn't until we were much older when I saw other people's opinion and their feedback and their perspective of him that I realized, oh, like they're making fun of him. Oh, they're seeing him different. That's when I started getting very protective, and I realized his world is so much different than mine. And I gotta figure out how to help him navigate this world. So it became more instinctual as a sibling, ultimately, as I got older.
It's funny. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, in your book, you sharing your personal experience about your family loss, your caregiving with your brother. For people, and the title of this book, Joyful Resilience, what is the biggest takeaway for people reading this book?
I think one of the biggest takeaways, especially with my brother, it was, I called it Joyful Resilience because my brother Buruk has a wild sense of humor, and he is humorous. And there are so many reasons for life, I think, ultimately to think it's impossible. There are challenges that we go through day to day, and life has a way of pressuring you and challenging you all the time. And it's how you show up to those challenges. And that's when you really get to see what you're made of. And I think I didn't expect or anticipate to find it so joyful and to find it so humorous. Like, all hell's breaking loose. I just lost my parents. This should be the worst time of my life. And in essence, it was. But I couldn't help but find so much humor in learning him and learning to understand him. And some of the things that would come out of his mouth when he's interacting with people, like, I would not have the audacity to say what he just said to that stranger. But there was so much humor in it. I'm like, this is wild. Like, this is the worst time of my life, but there's so much humor. And I laughed my way through pain, if you will. And that's really one of the things I would anybody who would read this book, or anybody who would know why I called it Joyful Resilience, is that even though life has a way of challenging you and pressuring you, there are ways to find joyful moments in those times of pain if you look for them. And it was very unexpected, and it was very surprising. But I have to say, I was like, this is insane. I would have never thought I'd be laughing through the most tragic time of my life, but I was. So
let me ask a question here. First generation, your brother's in this situation. Was your family aware of your brother's condition?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So definitely they were. My mom took a more cultural approach, and I think a lot of people that come from first generation immigrant families, or maybe even a culture that would see a disability as a taboo, almost like it has to be hidden and it has to be covered. I dealt with a little bit of that on my mother's side, and that's just because of what she was exposed to and how she learned. My father was a bit more progressive, and then she followed, eventually learning as she adapted to living here in the United States and becoming an American herself. I think she really learned, okay, I've got to navigate as well and figure out how to support him. And so my dad was a bit more progressive to bring in both worlds for my brother, because he was not only Eritrean, he's also American, because he was born here in the United States, just as I was. I came as a baby. And so I think understanding how to merge these two cultures and to see the benefits of both and blending them together was kind of initially a frustrating medium, but learning to navigate that and coming to a place where you could coalesce the two together and realize that there are benefits to learning from both aspects in different cultures, bringing that in and seeing how that would benefit an individual who is on the spectrum.
A two-part question here. Do you have a question, Steve?
Go ahead.
You mentioned you became the super woman for your brother, not knowing what he had at the particular point in time. How difficult was that for you to relinquish that and allow him to be himself? Because there's nothing you could do that was going to prevent him from being his, let's call it what you call it, his authentic self. What you find humor in, I get it. I may be like, what did you just call me?
Right.
And take it differently. In other words, you can't always be your brother's protector. You found a way to deal with it on the day-to-day basis in the house and so forth, but you're in the military. When did you begin to let the ropes go and allow him to be himself?
So something that I don't entirely cover in the book is that, when I went to college and moved on, my brother was with my family for a long time. And so he lived with them. And it wasn't until my parents passed away that I had to step in to be his legal guardian and to make sure, because ain't no way I was going to let the state take care of my brother. That's my brother. That's family. I'm going to take care of him. And so I took on that responsibility to be his legal guardian but what I didn't realize was that and this was a moment of humility for me where I had to be humble because I realized I don't have the bandwidth with my career and the things that I wanted to aspire to do. And knowing what my parents wanted for me and for him, I wasn't going to be able to take care of him. I didn't have the capability. I didn't have the capacity. And frankly, I didn't have the full understanding. And I don't think my parents entirely did either. And that's something that I think a lot of, parents struggle with sometimes is not quite understanding their child as they are on the spectrum and not understanding why they're behaving certain ways and why they do certain things. And I didn't have that full understanding. And I can honestly say that my parents didn't either. But when I moved him, and when he chose his adult home. He chose his caregivers in Seattle. He picked it. And I mentioned that in the book. This is my home. You're my caregivers. I want to live here. He made that decision. And in my gut, I knew because he connected with the caregivers, because we had been to a couple of adult homes in Seattle. When he picked his home, I knew in my heart of hearts that this was his choice with full conviction. So I let him make that choice. And it was probably one of the best decisions I could have ever made because he's been there now for a couple of years, health-wise, mentally, emotionally, and physically. He's in an amazing place. He had put on quite a bit of weight after my parents passed away. It was a lot of grief weight, eating his emotions. In the home that he's in, he managed to lose 45 pounds, like just health in a healthy manner, working out, getting the care and the support that he needed. I know that I wouldn't have been able to do that. And hindsight's 2020, but I didn't know that at the time. And I kind of took a leap of faith based on the home and how I felt about it and how he felt about it. By allowing him to make that decision. And so the more I let go, especially when I had to be stationed overseas, the more I let go, the more I saw it was going to be all right. It was going to be okay. There was some invisible hand moving in his life and making sure he was taken care of. And he was making decisions. And still to this day, every now and then I'm like, oh, I still got to step in and I have to, make decisions for himself that I know he wouldn't be capable of doing. But then there are times where I second guess, is it the right thing to do? And it's a team effort. I'll work with his job coaches. I'll work with his caregivers. I'll work with his social worker and say, hey, is he really ready to have this kind of a job independently? Because I've never seen him do it before, but they're like, yes, we have seen it. We know that he can. And that is hard for me to fathom because I'm not there day to day, right? It's hard for me to fathom because I've never seen it. But just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean he hasn't been able to do it. And I think he hasn't been able to do it, but also that's kind of like the definition of resilience too, is you have to lean into the unknown so you can understand your sense of self. And I didn't know what his sense of self was until I let go. Until I saw and heard from other people that he was around all the time. So,
and I go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like, Agazit, that God was being unfair to you, losing your parents, 25 days apart, and then all of a sudden you have this burden to take care of your brother? Did you ever feel like God was being unfair to you? Did you ever try to figure out, okay, well, why is this happening in my life?
I thought, I have no idea what's going on because I grew up and I mentioned this in the book, I grew up in a faith-based home. My mother was very spiritual and she was extremely faith-based, and I saw how she lived her life. And if there was anything that was unfair was what they went through growing up, what they experienced. So in my mind, I was like, well, life isn't fair. Look at what they went through. Look what they endured. Look what they overcame in a resilient manner. And look what they came into and experienced a life they could have never had or could have even dreamed of until they came to the United States. So in my mind, I thought, life is unfair. Things happen. We're all going to pass away. Initially I thought, why did they go like this? Right. But it's funny because today's Valentine's Day and my father passed away 2021, the night of Valentine's Day. And before he passed away, about a month before, he told my mother, where are you going? You're going to come with me. And she laughed. She didn't know what he was talking about. Sure enough, she passed away 25 days later. And I believe it was because of a broken heart. And I think their life story was written that way for a purpose. So it was at first I was like, why do they leave? But at the same time, I do believe in God's sovereignty and that I was equipped and prepared and ready for this season. Nothing is new under the sun. And I don't think that God gives us something that we're not equipped to handle. So obviously God felt that I could. So I knew that I had to lean into that and everything that I had learned from my parents. And so when they passed away, it wasn't like, this isn't unfair. I was like, this is life. And this is the life that's been written for me. And I'm just going to have to embrace this reality. And it's very easy to be like, woe is me, this isn't fair. But life isn't fair. There's a lot of things that are not fair. And I think, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, and you make it taste the way that you want it to taste. And so for me, it was about recognizing that even though my parents weren't here, I was the remnant of them, and my brother was the remnant of them, and I needed to take that baton that they had handed me in an unexpected and unpredictable way, because it was unpredictable how I lost them, and just move on, because that would be the greatest way to honor their memory.
I have a friend, I won't mention her name, but she has a son that is like that. And I've trained individuals that was on their spectrum, but not as an adult. And I was blown.
I know what friend you talked about too.
Yeah, I was blown away.
Yeah,
with what I learned with individuals who have that particular stage in their life.
Yeah,
he drives.
Yeah,
goes to work, and can carry on a conversation about things. He likes Marvel movies. Me and him was sitting there talking. And to talk to him, I was like, don't sound like there's nothing wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like, wow. So to piggyback off of that, what was it about your brother that you realized you can let him go? He's capable of making not always the decisions, because I asked the individual, how do you know when the decision isn't the right decision? But when I'm seeing somebody going to work, driving a vehicle, get real.
Yeah.
When you're driving a vehicle, you mastered the toughest part of life. So when did you start to feel really comfortable and to be able to go on with your life?
It was when I knew there were people in place in his life to help him in areas that would allow him to become independent. Caregivers, his job coaches. I mean, he goes and he volunteers at Habitat for Humanity. So they are with him and they're letting him go to do things. And when I knew he's not going to be somebody who's never going to need supervision. So every member that's on the spectrum, I don't want to say every member, but you do. For my brother, he had a neuropsychological evaluation. And those help. Like it's a psychological evaluation that's done by a psychiatrist and a therapist, where they basically they can tell you what he's capable of doing independently and non-independently. So you have an idea of what they're capable of doing. And without that kind of a test done, even a family member or a family can tell, how independent their child is. There are members of the spectrum that are much more independent, much more capable. My brother is somewhere in the middle, where he can do certain things, but sometimes he does need to be, he needs support in certain aspects. Like I can't leave him in the airport. He's going to get lost, right? I need to support him. He might know where McDonald's is. He might know where to get a soda. You know what I mean? He might know where to get junk food, because that's his driver. He'll memorize that, but as far as like getting to the right plane, that's difficult. Getting to the right gate, that might be difficult for him. So it's recognizing and knowing what their motivation is for him. Like he knows every single store in my area. Like he knows where to get the soda from, but he's not going to know how to get into the heart of DC or get on a train. Now he can learn over time, but that takes patience and a lot of effort. And that's where I think sometimes services and that's one-on-one support to help members of the community, of the autism community, sometimes don't have that. Like if you don't have a family member, or if you don't have a team of individuals or someone that's really teaching you those skills, they may never learn it, And so my challenge is finding the right people around him while I'm away, because of my career, to make sure that he has the right support system to help him learn these things. I don't want him to to be stagnant. I don't want him to not learn. So I have a lot of books that I send him. I have a tutor for him to help him understand. He understands complex concepts because he's watching TV and he's navigating the world day to day. But those pieces of his life where I know he could grow more, and I'm like driving. He wants to drive. I mean, he wants to get married. He has all these desires. And that's something I talk about in the book, is that like he has dreams and aspirations and things he wants to do. And I always scratch my head sometimes and I'm thinking, how am I going to help him as a vessel, as a sister? How am I going to help him have these opportunities? How am I going to help him? How am I going to bring this into his life? What can I do as his sister and as his guardian? It's my responsibility to make sure he has some of these things facilitated for him. And I try my best. And sometimes I don't get those opportunities. I don't find those people, and I have to be okay with that. That it might not be now, it might be later. And so, and maybe once he gets into that car, he might think to himself, "Oh, I don't want to drive. I don't want to drive. I don't want to be on the streets," and that's okay. He has the desire and the want, but he might not have the grace, the ability to do what he's asking to do. He understands as an adult, he should be driving, but once he gets in that car, he might be like, I'm not about this life, and not do it, So
let me go here with this. I can tell you're a caring individual because that's your brother.
Mm-hmm.
I can also see that you will put his before yourself. And that appears to be what's been going on from the moment that he was conceived until now. God rest your mom and dad. But knowing what the impact is still having upon you, you know where I'm going with this question. Do you think because enough research, enough resources were not in place, that took a toll on your parents, and you are still trying to pick up that slack or be that resilient piece by being first generation here? Because that's a lot on your plate.
A whole lot.
Yeah, I think so. I think they did everything they could. And I mentioned in the book, they would try to advocate for him in schools with his doctors. And there was not a lot of research done. You're right. At that time. And so I would see my parents having these dead ends or just being limited and not having, but it wasn't. And then going back after I became his guardian, after I decided to take that responsibility on, and then kind of looking back and seeing what they had done and I realized what the limitations were. And it was based on just not knowing what was out there, not being educated. And that's a lot of families that don't know what services are available, what can be done. And indeed, it's still because research is limited. And every state is different in terms of what they can provide and in terms of their support for the autism community. Some are forward leaning, some are a little bit stagnant. It just is what it is. And I think I definitely did take on more, but I also think it's because of the timing too. Like we are fast forward like 20, 30 years, there's so much that's been done in the autism community that wasn't done. And it was way more taboo, culturally, to hide it during that time in the 80s and early 90s, for my parents anyway, than it is now. So
your first, you got a question, Steve?
Yeah. So what would you say to the audience? Because one way or another, all of us are going to end up playing some role in the caregiver space.
Yeah.
Whether you're the recipient
or the
giver. Yeah. One way or the other. In your case, you were forced early, because most of us think, okay, well, eventually I'm going to have to take care of my parents.
Yeah.
I'm going to be their caregiver.
Don't say that. My daughter's already saying that.
Right.
And I look at her and be like, really? That's what you're going to tell me?
Go somewhere and sit down before I take you to the nursing home.
No.
But in all reality, being put into the caregiver space sooner than expected,
right,
impacts your life. So what do you say to the audience about unexpectedly being put in that space, and then also having to deal with the grief, and then learning your brother? So
and trying to maintain a career, and a female.
Yeah, exactly.
Female, yeah.
And having a family yourself. So what do you say to the audience about being forced in that role? And then also share with us your lowest point to your highest point of getting back or getting to that joy, that journey you had to take.
Yeah, I think the caregiving piece, I don't know, maybe it's with the way that I was raised, maybe a bit traditional. I always assumed that, when you have to take that role, because I thought I was going to be there for my parents as they got older and support them in that capacity. And due to COVID and a bunch of other reasons, I wasn't able to be there. And I was like, I wasn't there for those moments. And I really wanted to be there. I always, maybe I'm unusual in this way, but I used to dream of like, okay, and maybe because I'm a planner, I was like, okay, well, as my parents get older, I'm going to be there. I'm going to support them. I'm going to do what I can, make the most of those moments, because time is a one-way street. And I'm going to make the most of it. So I never really thought of it as a burden in any way. I kind of thought of it as like, these are my moments to make the most of my family. And with my brother, I think immediately, I don't even think I had a split moment or a border moment or a moment where I was like, no, I'm not taking care of him. He's going to go and live in a home and I'm not going to be a part of his life. I never thought of it that way. I always thought of it as like, this is my responsibility, not in a negative way, but as an honor and as a way to honor him and honor my parents. Like that would be the one thing I could do, is to honor my family and to honor my brother by taking care of him and giving him the life that I felt like I knew that he deserved and that I felt like my parents wanted for him, because I was very close to my parents and I knew how they valued him and how much they loved him. And I wanted to make sure that he had a continuum of that through me. And I wasn't as involved in his life because my parents were there, but now I had to step in. And I think as a caregiver, I think anybody that is put in that position has to really reflect and think to themselves, if there are reasons why you wouldn't want to be a caregiver or care for someone or step in and be responsible, why is that? Is there, aside from the grief, aside from losing somebody, is there something in you that's maybe angry? Maybe you think life isn't fair. And that's that moment of growth. And that's that moment where you have to really, your paradigm starts to shift. Your perspective of life starts to shift, because what you thought how things were going to go, it's not going the way that you thought it was going to go. And life, it doesn't always follow the path that we imagine it to sometimes. And when you propose these challenges, especially with caregiving and taking care of someone, you almost have to reinvent yourself, and almost adapt and change, but in a way that is not seen as a negative. Like, woe is me, I can't do these things anymore. I have to take care of someone. It's changing your perspective. I think people think I have to make sacrifice. I can't work. I can't do this. I can't spend time with X, Y, and Z. I can't go on vacations. That's not necessarily true. I didn't go on a vacation for a while when my parents passed away because I had to take care of my brother, but I still made time later after everything had been situated and everything was taken care of. I think it's changing your perspective and be willing to honestly face yourself in those moments. And when you start to see those not so nice sides of yourself, and those points where you see aspects of your personality and your character, because your character is going to be challenged, where maybe you come off selfish, or maybe you come off kind of not happy, or you have a bad attitude because maybe that responsibility is forced onto you. It's that moment where you have to change your attitude. And how do you do that? And what do you have around you that allows you to shift that paradigm, to shift and to grow as a person and to grow as a character, in your character? Because I can speak for myself because I come from a faith-based background, but for other people, it might not be the same thing. It could be all they have is their life experiences. They feel things are unfair. It might be therapy. It might be having a sense of community, but whatever it takes to get you to shift your perspective for that responsibility, if it's a responsibility that you choose to take, or that either you choose it or it's been forced upon you. So I think it's just how you shift. It's how you change your perspective of life. Because otherwise you could be bitter the whole time and be upset the whole time. But is that how you want to live your life? Do you want to be bitter because you have a responsibility?
Yeah.
Or do you want to find the joy in it?
You're still active in the military, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
How do you meet your brother's needs? Even though he's with caring people, there may come a time where that can change. But I don't know how that works. Is it like a foster care?
Right.
If they say, you know what, we don't want to deal with it no more. What if the laws change? Because is this a program that has limitations? You know what I mean? But you're in the military. How do you navigate all that? And is this a possibility? Because is this something like, you know, his current situation, is it something like a foster care? Can the people say, you know, can laws change? Can the caregiver say, I don't want to do this no more?
So he's in an adult home. So when you're in an adult home, based on your disability, those are pretty permanent. So he's going to be able to stay in the home where he's from. So my state of residence is Washington State. I'm from Washington State, so he's in a wonderful home. I looked at places in the DMV when I was first stationed here, and I mentioned that in the book, but it was best to keep him in Washington State because he already had systems that were already in place that he'd already been using in the past when he was with my parents. But at the time, he was living with my parents. Now, not that they weren't alive, I had to find a facility, not a facility, an adult home for him. And so we looked at over 200 homes. We narrowed it down to 5, and my friends helped me in the Seattle area to find those 5 homes that were appropriate for him. Because not every adult home can cater to somebody or who has special needs or who has autism. It's a variety there are a variety of adult homes, and so we had to go in person and look at each and every one. And he picked one. For some reason the adult home isn't able to take him on anymore. He would then stay with me. But again, with my career, I'm able to take him for X amount of time. I have leave. I have all these things that are kind of put together. I have what's called a family care plan where I can take care of him and manage all of my responsibilities of taking care of him while I'm active duty. Worst came to worst, I would just take emergency leave and, you know, fly over there and take care of him. But I do have family that's in the area that can support him and take care of him as well. That's part of my family care plan as well. I have a lot of friends and family in the area that can manage and support him and take care of him if he needs that. But there are things in place. But again, also, I mean, I wrote the book Joyful Resilience. Nothing is new under the sun. So whatever happens, I got it. Whatever happens, I'm confident in myself.
I've been blessed to have a lot of beast mentalities on this show. You definitely got that beast mindset.
Absolutely.
How do you keep yourself in check? You seem to, you know, this whole entire interview has been nothing but nurturing. You know, you're giving. When have you actually taken time for yourself?
Balance.
Yeah. Work-life balance. Yeah.
Actually, a lot. I do. So because I'm alone, right? When I first got him in a home, and in the book I mentioned this, I finally found a home for him in Seattle. It was situated, and it broke my heart to leave him there. He wasn't happy. It hit him that he was no longer going to be living with his sister. He was having a blast out here in the DMV. But once I finally got him into a home in Seattle and I flew back, he's like, "You're leaving me too." And it broke my heart when he said that because he was still grieving as well. And so I called him every week, and I still do to this day, every weekend as much as I can. I don't call him every day because then he starts to wander and think I want to go travel places. I want to go see her. So I had to kind of figure that out. But that's beside the point. When I finally, everything was settled and done, I'm an artist. And so what helped me grieve and what helped me heal was I got back to the DMV and I started working again. And I painted. And painting, I called in chapter 11, it's called Artscape, where I did a painting of my parents because I wanted to preserve their memory and I wanted to memorize their face one more time, even though I can see them in images, see them in pictures. But there's something about painting and drawing people that you really love. And that helped me heal a lot. And I think my balance has always been painting and drawing and working out. So getting to the gym, getting to CrossFit, doing whatever I could, here. I think I've managed it quite well. I think the one thing that I learned when I lost my parents was the importance of time and how time is one way and you better make the most of it and manage it better. Something in me just, when the dust finally settled, something in me kind of really thought about how I use time and how important it is and how every minute matters. And so I kind of started doing things more purposefully. I'm going to go travel. I'm going to go see the world. I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z. And I've been able to do that. Like surprisingly, every one of my goals, whether it was to travel, whether it was to write this book, whether it was to do more artwork and get it displayed, I've been able to do, whether it was to spend quality time with friends and family, all of it I was able to do. There was a lot of balance the minute I was able to find a home for my brother. And now I've learned to internalize his needs from far away. So just managing that all together, just like any other human being would do. So I would hope. So
I can see where the book title Joyful Resilience came from. I think it comes from the heart and what you've taken on. And I'm pleased that you allow yourself to come on and share this great story, because I think we need to look at everybody and realize that we're connected, no matter how you look at it. And the fact that you're still keeping your mental state going as well. And I would be that the fact that your brother says something like, "You're leaving me now," that has to always resonate in the back of your head, because he does have all, that particular level. And how are you addressing that with him for reassurance that you're going to be there no matter what, as long as, the good Lord keeps you here?
yeah. When he said that, and when I dropped him off at the home, because he was with me for months after my parents passed away, when we spent one more day in Seattle enjoying everything that we enjoy about Seattle, and went to Pike's Place, went to the Space Needle, went to his favorite restaurants. We did all these things, and I dropped him off at his home. And he was like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I got to head back to DC." And he's like, "You're leaving me too." And it hit me that he was still grieving. He was still grieving the loss of my parents. And I didn't even acknowledge or recognize how he was, because I didn't understand how he navigated his emotions. And so every day I checked in on him. And then every day, the FaceTime calls every day kind of changed to once a week as he got more comfortable in the adult home with the caregivers, and he felt safer. So it was a slow transition. It was a slow process. And then now that's his norm. He's got friends, he's got a community, he's a part of a Big Brother, Big Sister program. He's volunteering, he's getting a job. I mean, he goes out, he does things. And then I pick him up. I see him twice a year. I'll take him somewhere. We travel together. I took him to Disney World, took him to London. Now he wants to travel everywhere. He's like, "I want to go to Paris because they got French fries in Paris." Really? I mean, he understands. He's like, "Oh, French fries. It's from France." He's connecting these things because he loves fries. And so now he wants to travel. So I make the most. When I'm with him for a week or two, I am very intentional about taking him to places that he wants to go to, whether it's Vegas, whether it's Los Angeles, whether it's Chicago or New York. And he remembers, and we're building these memories together. And so he knows when I come and pick him up, we're about to have a blast. We're going to go on a trip of trips. And so I feel like it's a part of my responsibility to plan those trips, to make them as fun as possible, because I only get to see him a couple times a year, especially during the holidays. I try to make it as robust as possible, because I don't want him to be alone around Christmas time. So I always see him during Christmas time. So I make the most of those times, and he knows that's something to look forward to. So it's not, "You're leaving me forever. You're just leaving me for this time because you got to go to work. Now you're going to come back. And this is my new norm. This is my new way of living," is how he's been able to internalize it.
Yeah, Agazit, when it comes to joyful resilience, in your heart of hearts, who should be reading your book?
I think people who are going through it. I think people in my opinion, I think anybody that reads it is going to find a little bit of themselves. They're going to be reading themselves in this book, because it's a quite vulnerable book. It's a reflection. It takes a lot of courage to be as vulnerable as I was, and I chose to write it that way. I've read other memoirs before, but I chose to be very vulnerable because I wanted people to find themselves in that book and be like, "Oh, well, if she can do it after all this, then I can do it too." It's for anybody that is going through hell and high waters. It's for anybody who's been through difficulty, and it's a sense of hope. It could be for caregivers. It could be for friends and family who have individuals who are special needs or on the spectrum. But it really is for anybody who is like, "I need a pick-me-up," because you read my story, you're kind of like, "This is a lot. But if she can do it and she made it through and she was able to overcome with a little bit of hope, a little bit of faith, a little bit of humor, I think if someone reads that, it encourages them to believe that they can do it themselves. Because I think it's so easy to just come to a dead end and be like, I am at my end's wit. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm done. And you start making decisions that are not from a place of hope and belief and from a place where things could get better, but you kind of shut down and you let the tornado take over, if you will, but there are ways to navigate that tornado if you choose to. And I think it's for anybody who's going through anything that is difficult and hard. It's for anybody who is looking for inspiration. It's for anybody who is grieving even the loss of parents or maybe the loss of a sense of self too.
Sounds like a winner.
Sounds like beast mode to me.
Sounds like beast mindset with joyful resilience.
Yes, sir.
Sounds like. How can the viewers reach out to you, support you, and get a copy of this great book?
Yeah, so I have a website for my book called agazitbooks.com. Also, my Instagram at Agazit Author Nagash as well. You can purchase the book on Amazon. You can purchase the book on Barnes and Nobles as well. And then my email, which is joyfulresilience25@gmail, if they want a copy of the book or a manuscript, if they want to put in their bookstores. If they just want maybe even to do a workshop, I'm happy to help. I work with a lot of organizations too in the area here as well as in Washington State to help put together culturally sensitive, cross-cultural communication types of events to help learn more about how to support members of the autism community, as well as first-generation immigrant families or minority families who are still navigating how to support a loved one who's on the spectrum.
That sounds so great. Make sure you guys click and follow and like and be supportive. Sometimes, like I said, all it takes is one click of a button to change the way you look at things and to impact somebody else. Before we close out, I got to give special shouts out to the one and only Mr. Steve Jefferson, who, let's call you what it is, humanitarian. You're back in Indianapolis to support a cause to help artists. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Meet the Artists 38, Central Library today at 5:30, and we'll have authors like
painters too
as well. Yeah,
painters, authors,
musicians. Absolutely, yes.
And it's free.
Free. Did I say free?
Yeah,
free.
If you want to get that beast mindset, you need to go. How can they reach out to that? Because it's going on today. But like you said, do your recon. Come out and visit it first. How can people check on that? All
you have to do is go online, look up Indianapolis Central Library, Meet the Artists. If you just Google Meet the Artists, Indianapolis, you'll find a whole lot of information about it. It's been going on for 38 years, giving people like Agazit Nagash space
to tell their story.
And
to showcase their story. Ladies and gentlemen, man, I love saying this, but I hate to say it. This has been another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.